So let's talk about love as a journey towards individuation. So individuation was a term coined by the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung. I have been reading his Red Book, which is a journal documentation of his unconscious experiences, including his dreams, mystical experiences. It's been really interesting so far. And I guess for me, individuation is a newer term, but I think it encapsulates really well what my life process has been, even though I wasn't conscious of it. So we've been sold a lie about love because in this sort of like consumerist society that is built on attachment to many physical things, right? Like materialism. I believe this is what I've witnessed, at least, like our bodies have become commodities as well. Like if you see like dating apps and like even the way that people socialize in public at bars and clubs and things, everything, it's like our bodies have just become disrespected, and we actually unconsciously do this to ourselves because of the programming that we've received. And so we have misconstrued love with attachment. And if you know anything about attachment theory, basically, there's wounding that can be created with our parental caregivers that can result in different attachment styles, like anxious attachment, anxious avoidant, and avoidant personality, things like that. But essentially what it is like an insecure attachment to our true selves and our divinity, because that wasn't modeled or provided to us, probably by caregivers that also were not rooted in their own self-respect and self-love, right? Because of their various stressors, conditionings, colonization, right? And just like we just live in this sort of scarcity mindset about love in this society, unfortunately. Not everybody, but I think I could argue most people I've seen. And so, true love is not attachment, and I've had to learn that the hard way, because we don't really learn verbally when we're growing up, right? We just learn what our parents show us, what society shows us, and if all of that is wrong, right, then we learn the wrong lessons, and we have to correct those lessons later in life. But I'll just show you guys this little creek. And something I've realized is we can actually be our own vessel for love and not rely on or require anybody else's body, right, to do that. And something else, though, that I realized is to really access true true love, you have to allow your ego to be obliterated. And what I mean by that is you have to allow your defense mechanisms and all of these patterns and conditioning and identities, right, that you've developed over the course of your lifetime to actually fall apart, so that something else can rise from those ashes, which is actually your true embodied self, like your true your truest version of yourself, so that you can actually be that vessel for yourself and become individuated. So some of the ways that the ego shows up in yourself and others that you can tell means it's wounded are these like wounded masculine and feminine energies. Some of these behaviors that I'll read to you in a moment. But I think in IFS, some of these would actually qualify as protector parts. So if you're familiar with that system from Richard Schwartz, it's the managers and firefighters that are actually really just trying to protect your little vulnerable inner child parts that are wounded. So they're not necessarily bad, but they're just wounded, which is why I prefer this term to toxic, because, you know, other people say toxic masculinity and femininity, but I think wounded is a better term, because they just need care, right? They just need care, they just need love. So I got these lists online. You'll probably find some different ones out there, but I'll read off some of the behaviors that are from both. So wounded masculine, aggressive, easily offended, competitive, aligned with ego, success-driven, defensive, over-controlling, selfish, withdrawn emotions, materialistic, stuck in the mind, refuses help, spiritually disconnected. Definitely see that a lot. Not just in individuals, but in society, right, as a whole. You have to remember that these are qualities that are conditioned into us from a very young age, so we can't blame ourselves too much, you know. And wounded feminine includes passive, too yielding, victimized, insecure, manipulative, attention-seeking, poor boundaries, sacrifices self, overly critical, needy, desperate, doesn't trust self. And the healing process, which can look a lot of different ways for different people, right? It could just be therapy, it could be somatics, it could be psychedelics, it could be shamanic work, it could be hobbies, community, reconnecting to nature. All of those actually would be great. And the most important thing is to recognize that we are all inherently divine. Just like this yin and the yang. Like, we're all born and deserve to live our lives that way and not under the pressure of a system that wants us to stay wounded, right? And there's not really too much of an incentive for us to reclaim our spiritual sovereignty. We have to wake up to that desire to become whole ourselves. And not everybody does that in their lifetime, right? And it's totally your choice. But there's just a lot of suffering within that woundedness. So for the divine masculine, he is encouraging, protects and guides, inspired action, uses clear communication, is responsible, has an expanded vision, aligned work, spiritual purpose, honest and humble, uplifting strength, expresses emotions, disciplined and driven. And then the divine feminine, she is receptive, grounded, empowered, trusts self, nurturing, prioritizes self-care, open, strong heart, emotionally resilient, intuitive, reflective, and supported by life. And so all of these are energies that we can embody regardless of our sex, gender, sexual orientation, partner preferences, whatever. Like, we all have, by nature, divine feminine and masculine potential. And even if it's like wounded and buried in our subconscious, right? It wants to awaken. It wants to be known and wants to be lived. That energy wants to be alive. And so when we repress or suppress it, Carl Jung would say, I've been learning about this term complexes. One more thing about love. I've been learning a little bit more about heart chakra opening. Definitely not an expert in that, but I started sensing this kind of warmth, pressure, and some palpitations even in my chest. Probably for the couple of years following the plant medicine ceremony that I had, and I checked it out with my doctor and everything seemed fine. I'm very healthy otherwise. So, but I've been kind of feeling this more expanded space, like in my sternum area. During this Brahma Viharas retreat I went on this winter, I just felt my heart chakra really open when I was meditating with other people. And we were chanting and we were meditating on the Brahma Viharas, for immeasurables, the Metta, Karuna, Mudita, and Upekkha. It's like, what if love is actually this expansion from the heart chakra? What if it's this quantum entanglement between infinite beings? And it's not just this transactional relationship, right, between a straight man and woman, and they just, make babies. What if we had deeply interconnected and intimate relationships with all beings? That's the kind of deliciousness I would sign up for.